Long before Megxit shattered the public perception of the British royal family and dominated world headlines, Meghan Markle's ultimate destiny within a monarchy was quietly determined inside a private room at Windsor. The individual who allegedly sealed her fate was not a scheming courtier, a political advisor, or a tabloid kingpin, but rather Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh. For over 25 years, Sophie has built an unquestionable reputation as one of the most disciplined and reliable secret keepers within the entire royal institution. What makes her role in this unfolding drama so compelling is not an explosive tell-all interview or a series of leaked text messages, but rather her absolute public silence. Sophie has never spoken openly about private family matters, making her discreet assessment carry unprecedented weight among the highest-ranking royals. To fully grasp why Sophie's perspective altered the course of royal history, one must look back at how she earned her unique status. In 2001, Sophie found herself at the center of a devastating scandal when she was secretly recorded by a reporter posing as an Arab sheik. The published recordings contained indiscreet remarks that threatened to destroy her royal standing permanently. However, instead of issuing defensive public statements or running to media publicists, Sophie chose silent, tireless dedication. She put her head down, absorbed the consequences, and spent years serving the crown with quiet humility. Queen Elizabeth II closely observed Sophie's resilience during that trial, eventually transforming her into one of her most trusted personal confidants. When a woman with that track record forms a firm, unwavering judgment, the palace pays attention. The shift began during the brief, extraordinary era of the so-called Fab Four between late 2017 and early 2019. On the surface, Prince William, Kate Middleton, Prince Harry, and Meghan Markle presented a unified, modernized vision of the British monarchy. Yet behind closed doors, a profound cultural friction was brewing. Meghan arrived from California with a warm, expressive, and physically demonstrative social style. In standard American culture, placing a hand on someone's arm or leaning in close during a conversation is viewed as natural friendliness. However, the British royal family operates on strict, unwritten boundaries, and Prince William maintains a notoriously rigid personal space. Unspoken protocols among senior aides dictated that no one initiates physical contact with William unless he extends his hand first. Multiple palace insiders report that during informal family gatherings, away from official cameras and press coverage, Meghan repeatedly crossed these unwritten physical boundaries. Observers noted subtle moments where Meghan placed her hand on William's arm for a beat too long or stepped into his personal space, leaving him visibly tense. While an outsider might attribute this to innocent cultural misunderstanding, Sophie was watching closely from the sidelines. Having spent decades mastering palace discipline, Sophie's assessment was far sharper. She allegedly concluded that Meghan was not merely unfamiliar with the rules, but was actively testing established boundaries despite observing William's obvious discomfort. This critical assessment did not stay isolated. Sophie did not go to the press or demand formal interventions. Instead, she shared her observations directly with Kate Middleton. At the time, Kate was already observing these uncomfortable dynamics with a growing sense of quiet concern. Having spent nearly a decade navigating extreme public scrutiny before marrying William, Kate possessed an acute emotional intelligence and a deep understanding of royal protocol. The famous disagreement during Princess Charlotte's bridesmaid dress fitting in May 2018 was never truly about tights or tailored hems. It was the explosive manifestation of months of accumulated tension between the two women, a friction that Sophie had watched build from the very beginning. By the autumn of 2018, the subtle atmosphere inside Kensington Palace underwent an unmistakable shift. Staff members and royal aides who navigated the daily logistics of royal life felt a distinct drop in temperature before any official announcements were ever made. The initial warmth and public optimism surrounding the Fab Four project were cooling rapidly, particularly surrounding Meghan Markle. During this critical period, for parallel developments unfolded simultaneously, each independently reported across credible media outlets, painting a clear picture of an institution reaching its breaking point. The first major sign appeared within the household management itself. Reports surfaced detailing formal complaints raised by personal staff regarding internal management styles, early morning communication, and an environment that several long-serving palace employees found unsustainable. While publicists attempted to minimize these accounts, Buckingham Palace eventually confirmed that formal internal reviews had taken place. By early 2019, the turnover rate among senior staff members surrounding Harry and Meghan was unprecedented. Key individuals who had spent decades serving the monarchy without incident found themselves stepping down, signaling a deep, systemic rift that went far beyond mere cultural miscommunication. The second development was the abrupt decision to formally separate royal households in mid-2019. Kensington Palace announced that Harry and Meghan would move their official operations to Buckingham Palace, establishing an independent administrative team away from William and Kate. While official palace statements framed the decision as a logical operational step to support two growing royal families, insiders recognized it as a profound relationship breakdown. The two brothers, who had once shared an unbreakable bond forged through childhood tragedy, were now barely speaking. Prince William's decision to enforce distance was firm and final, creating an institutional wall between the two couples that could not be bridged. The situation culminated during the high-stakes Sandringham summit in January 2020, where senior royals gathered to negotiate the formal terms of Harry and Meghan's departure. Behind closed doors, William was described as entering the summit with a state of controlled, icy formality. The sudden public announcement by the Sussexes regarding their intention to step back had blindsided the late Queen, Prince Charles, and William alike. For a future king who prioritizes institutional integrity and strict protocol above personal desires, that sequence of events was viewed as an irreversible betrayal of family trust. Throughout these high-level discussions, Sophie's role remained quiet yet profoundly influential. Unlike others who operated on emotion, Sophie provided calm, factual observations based on what she had directly witnessed during private gatherings over the previous 2 years. Her quiet assessment carried immense weight with senior family members because it was free from personal drama or media ambition. Meanwhile, Prince Harry interpreted the family's growing distance through an entirely different lens, viewing it as prejudice and unfair institutional resistance against his wife. Harry remained largely unaware of the specific private observations and conversations taking place among senior royals, leaving him to navigate the conclusion of a process that had been quietly building for over a year. Years after the dramatic exit that permanently reshaped the modern British monarchy, the question of whether Prince Harry and Meghan Markle can ever truly reconcile with the royal family continues to dominate global media discussion. However, the stark reality operating inside palace walls in 2026 is vastly different from the optimistic speculation surrounding public polls. To understand why every tentative attempt at royal reconciliation quietly loses momentum before achieving anything meaningful, one must examine how the internal power dynamic of the monarchy has permanently shifted, and why Sophie's silent assessment remains its most formidable, immovable pillar. Following the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, the institutional anchor that held the family together through sheer personal authority was gone. King Charles III, while maintaining his sovereign duties, has taken an increasingly passive approach toward resolving the ongoing Sussex divide, preferring to let time and external circumstances dictate the outcome. Consequently, the actual decision-making power regarding family access, proximity, and institutional boundaries now rests squarely on the shoulders of Prince William. In navigating these deeply sensitive family matters, William's most trusted advisor outside his immediate household is none other than Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh. During Prince Harry's recent brief visits to the United Kingdom, reports suggested that subtle back-channel efforts were explored to test whether the long-closed doors of the monarchy had any remaining give. The atmosphere surrounding these quiet exchanges was neither overtly hostile nor dramatically dismissive, but rather defined by the impenetrable coolness of a family that made a definitive collective decision years ago. Sophie did not need to participate in those specific meetings directly. Her position, built upon observed behavioral patterns during the Fab Four era and maintained with absolute consistency, had long been integrated into William's settled perspective. You cannot negotiate with private assessment held by someone who never speaks publicly, nor can you reframe a narrative that exists entirely within closed rooms you are no longer invited to enter. Critics often question whether Sophie's firm stance was rooted in personal animosity, but her quarter-century track record inside the royal institution proves otherwise. Sophie has never operated from personal bitterness, tabloid drama, or institutional politics, Her reputation was built on quiet observation, emotional discipline, and unwavering loyalty to the crown. When Meghan Markle first entered royal life, she faced an immense cultural gap, crossing from the fast-paced, expressive world of American entertainment into an ancient institution governed by unwritten, unspoken rules. While many inside the palace sympathized with the steep learning curve of adapting to royal life, Sophie's concerns were specifically tied to observed actions where established boundaries were repeatedly tested despite clear signals of discomfort. Today, while the public remains captivated by the emotional narrative of estranged brothers reuniting and a broken family healing, the internal reality within the palace remains unchanged. The coordinated appearances and modernized promise of the Fab Four belong entirely to the past. What remains is an institution operating on long-term stability, discipline, and absolute discretion as the monarchy navigates its future. The quiet verdict delivered years ago inside private palace rooms continues to shape every major decision behind the scenes. In the world of high-stakes royal diplomacy, what Sophie observed and quietly communicated ultimately mattered more than anything the public cameras ever captured.